What if finishing one big, juicy creative project gave you the power to keep finishing them until you became the artist of your dreams? Hi, I'm Olivia, creator of Witch Hut and Creative Doula, here to share with you my framework for finishing a dream creative project. Imagine that about once per year, you finished one of these dream projects. So, a gallery show, a book of stories, an album, a film. It's one of these projects that satisfies your artistic ambitions. By the end of your life, you will have had a piece of art from each version of yourself. And you would have gotten so good at what you do, you would have mastered your powers of your self expression. That's how I want to go out triumphantly fulfilled by a lifetime of creative endeavors. So for me, this is about our older selves, but it's also about our younger selves. Remember how good it felt for art to be such a natural part of our lives? And remember how bright the future felt when we believed we would be pursuing our artistic love into our adulthood. So why is it so hard to finish a dream creative project as an adult? I'm going to share with you the challenges as I see them in a way that maybe you haven't thought about them before. And I'm going to give you the 3 strategies that have helped me and my clients finish these dream creative projects. So first, for a little bit of context, as a creative doula, I have helped people with a variety of creative goals achieve what they're looking to do. So there was someone who had a project they'd been working on for a decade and they just needed 12 weeks of structure and support to finish. There have been people who didn't see themselves as creatives, but they felt inspired to learn a new practice in order to express something that they were passionate about. But mostly I've worked with people who were like me, which they had a lot of creativity in their youth, and then that transition into adulthood made it so that it was hard to stay connected to those things, but there was always that desire to get back to it. So that dream creative project is a way to reclaim that passion you had when you were younger. So what this looked like for me was I made music from kindergarten all the way up until the end of college, and I had every intention of pursuing my art through adulthood. But a couple of things happened. One, the experience of suddenly wanting to make money off of my art made it so I lost all of my inspiration. It completely changed my relationship with my creativity and kind of killed it in the water. Two, the demands of needing to figure out how to make money and get a 9 to 5, keep the 9 to 5, take care of my house, take care of my body, keep up with my relationships. All of these things meant that my creativity was a casualty of figuring out how to survive in the adult world. And despite all of that, I still always wanted to get back to making this kind of project. And over time, I did figure it out with the right mindset, strategy, support. I now have released multiple EPs streaming on Apple Music and Spotify. I've thrown multiple DIY shows where I've performed my music and given a platform for other creatives to perform. And I also run a very creative business that I love, love, love the process of. So through, again, just starting those very first creative projects, have created momentum of a framework of doing the things I love, and I intend to do these things for the rest of my life. So the trick is, in my opinion, to get that first project under your belt because it unlocks the path forward to just keep doing what it is that you love to do. So let me break down for you the challenges to making these creative projects as I see them, because you may not have thought about it in this way before. I think the biggest obstacle to our creativity, which we often mistake as a lack of discipline, is actually a lack of capacity. I had a very wise mentor help me with this because I was in a cycle of beating myself up, saying I had a lack of discipline because I would not make my art. And then she said to me, if you didn't have to work your 9 to 5, would you be making art? And I was like, easily, very easily, I would be showing up to my art. And so for me, that released the shackles of making my biggest problem, that I lacked discipline, a personal failing, and was this really compassionate reframe around the idea that my biggest problem was a lack of capacity, not a lack of discipline. The second biggest obstacle, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is the fear of failure. The thing about the fear of failure is that it is tied up in a few other fears, right? There's the fear of being seen, the fear of being seen trying, the fear of being seen failing. And then there's also the fear of success, which is a sneaky little cousin of the fear of failure, which is a bit like saying, if I get what I want, will it be too much for me to handle? Will the visibility and the exposure be something I don't actually want? So another breakthrough for me with this understanding was that procrastination is not always really just laziness. It's an identity level fear. You're avoiding what's on the other side of what you want. So it's your subconscious. It's our ancient monkey brains trying to protect us from being publicly humiliated. And there's like really deep programming going on trying to keep us from the things that we want on a conscious level. So I think that's, again, a really important thing to acknowledge. And really, it's a can of fear worms all conspiring to keep you from what you want. Third, I think it's really important to acknowledge one of the obstacles to our creativity is a lack of purpose that comes from our internal values. We are often programmed to value external, commercial, mainstream, conventional versions of success. So that looks like thousands of fans, going viral, Grammys, Emmys, Oscars, and even making money off of your art. So these are all things that we equate with success because we've been raised to see that as the pinnacle of creative achievement. And while these things are worthwhile, there are so much on a personal, internal level that is actually so much more validating and important that we don't really know how to connect with because we're saying we want to make our art in order to reach these external goals. I think these external goals also feed into that fear of being seen trying, because if people see us reach for something and not get all the way up to that Grammy, Emmy, Oscar level, we will look like failures. So again, using these external versions of success and achievement, it's a feedback loop of never actually going for it because of you're so afraid of what people are going to think because they also value these external versions of success. So, with a lack of capacity, with the fear of failure and all her sneaky cousins, and with this foggy and external sense of purpose, of course we struggle to figure out our creative lives in amidst everything else we have to figure out in our adult lives. The good news is that I've seen firsthand how a few fun, easy, and pleasurable shifts in our mindset and strategy can help us rework this landscape and achieve our dreams. Here are the 3 main strategies that have helped me and my clients create dream projects. First and foremost, we need to orient ourselves around an internal purpose. As we release these external outcomes that we've learned to become attached to, we get to soul search and instead look for more personal, intimate, and even spiritual versions of success to creating this dream project. It doesn't have to be fancy or profound. For me, my first project that the why I was able to find and get through was I am going to be haunted with regret if I don't do this. And conversely, I also wanted to see who I would become when I finished this thing, when this thing was done and expressed finally after years of longing to actually get there. Once you've finished that first dream project, you'll have the experience to get to layer into your purpose the learned experience of how your fulfillment, your growth, and the impact around on the people around you is also really meaningful to finishing projects. Forget going viral, forget anything like that. Like once you have that first experience of your first project, the benefits for you and the people right around you will become so tangibly meaningful that your why will get stronger and stronger. But we've got to start with whatever little seed we can find to get that internal navigation going. This internal purpose is also the determining factor for how to design the level of scope for this project. We don't want to set the bar too high because we're looking at external ambitions, but we do want to set the scope of this project to something that scares us a little bit, but makes our heart flutter and really does reach for those ambitions inside of us, not selling ourselves short, but really tying the scope of our project to the internal why. Here's the thing that I truly need to see done in order to understand what it is that this project means to me. The second important strategy that I have found is centering compassion in your strategies. I love figuring out fun, easy, playful ways to achieve what I want. I used to think that grit and suffering and hardship was the only way to get what I want, but I found that actually centering ease and love and play and compassion made me go the distance in a way that those other harsh things never did. So, some examples of what this looks like. The first I would say is replace the concept of discipline with devotion. Just throw discipline out and put devotion in its place. How do those 2 different things feel in your body? For me, devotion is heart-led, it's expansive, it's not restrictive and fearful, it doesn't come with a lot of baggage of shame and past failures. It is about love and purpose, and just that simple understanding of I could swap those things out helped me along the way. Another important compassionate strategy is to let the clown out. I talk about this on my social media, but famous artists talk about the difference between the archetype of the clown and the fool and then the editor. And oftentimes when we're stuck, we're letting the editor have free reign right away. So it's really important to learn how to let the clown out in those early stages of making your project. This is about looking weird if you have to. This is about getting playful. This is about going outside of the box and not letting yourself worry about the outcome yet. The clown is such an important part of a compassionate strategy to making art. A third compassionate strategy is to set the bar compassionately low for what you want to do each week. This can look like just putting your ass in the chair once per week. If we set the bar too high, which I've done this so many times, I watch clients do this over and over again. They set the list for what they're going to do that week, and I say, that's gonna be hard to do, and then we're gonna end up in a tailspin of not doing what we said we're gonna do. So really rethink how it is you set your goals and your intentions, and start just play around with what it's like to be easy on yourself when it comes to achievement and goals. This will change your life if you're not used to this idea. Lastly, towards the end of finishing a creative project, it's really important to do everything you can to release your impulse to be precious about the work. Believe me, I get it so much. The perfectionism, the preciousness, not wanting the world to see something that isn't exactly what you want to show. The way that I override this preciousness is by getting excited about the next project, about seeing this project as a stepping stone into the next one, and not needing the results of this project to satisfy every single itch and ambition that I have, but instead understanding that in order to make those goals come true, you need to practice, you need to release work, you need to finish things. So find it in you to be less precious about your work and get across that finish line by getting excited about a lifetime practice of finishing work instead of the preciousness of this one thing you're about to finish. The third and possibly the most important strategy for finishing a dream project is to create in community. I cannot overstate the importance of working with someone. I started by meeting with a friend every week to show each other what we did that week, and then I started to work with a professional who understood the process of finishing the kind of project that I wanted to make. So if you don't have the budget to hire someone like me to help you, it's not the end of the road. You can find a friend, someone else who's just like you, who wants to be creative, and set up a weekly ritual for a defined amount of time and stick with the program. This is a magical process because the desire to not show up empty-handed will override so many of those fears and avoidance patterns that we've seen. You get to show up, you get to be held in accountability by someone, and you get to celebrate your progress along the way. I love when a client comes into a session and said, I didn't finish my work until the hour before this session. And I'm like, that's not a problem. That's things working exactly as intended. I think it's awesome that if in order to create the creative momentum in life you want to see, there's just two sessions there. You putting your ass in the chair and then you showing up to speak for what you did that week. So you can get really far with a friend, but you can go a little bit further with a mentor because they can challenge you, they can see things from a place that you're not seeing them from, and they can just be there to push you in a way that a peer can't. So either way works. If you don't have the budget, find a friend. This combination of a clear internal purpose, compassionate strategy, and creating in community changed my life, and it works for my clients time and time again. It is a magical framework that I swear by. Remember, we are one project away from a different relationship with our creativity. Once we do it, we get to do it again and again and again. So I encourage you with all my heart to take from this what is useful for you and go and find your way to making that dream project. If this framework has felt helpful and exciting for you, and you want to create the best possible conditions for going forth to make that creative project, I would love to talk to you about being your creative doula. I love supporting creatives. I think that it is the most fun thing in the world to get creative support. I think everyone should try it once. And I also think, again, one of these projects will change your life. So getting support with it can be a really big path opener for you in your creative life. I lead creatives on the Creative Quest, which is a 12-week journey of meeting weekly. And it is about accountability, support, tailoring these compassionate strategies to your exact experience, and celebrating you along the way. If you're ready to stop avoiding your creative dreams and follow those impulses that are in your heart, let's book a call together. Let's have a conversation. I would love to brainstorm your project, your strategy, whatever it looks like. I have a free discovery call where we can just chop it up and see what it might be like to work together. No obligation. And again, like with all my heart, if you've made it this far into the video, I wish you all the best on your creative path and happy making.